Welcome back. This is part 2 of adding hair to your crochet doll. So we've already done the hairline, and I went ahead and finished all the way down to her chin on either side, making sure to keep it nice and even. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the hair along her part. So I'm going to look at the back and try to decide where the center is. So I'm going to want the 2 stitches that are in the center of the back of her head, because I'm going to do 2 rows of stitches side by side so the part is nice and thick. So I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to go up like so, and then do another stitch right beside it. And this is going to create this line of skin color between them, but we're going to be crossing the strands to cover that up. So don't worry about that. And same thing as with the sides of the head, we're just going straight up, or as straight up as possible, because you're going to find where there's increases and decreases, you're going to have to make a decision again about whether you move a little to the left or a little to the right. Just as long as you're still going in the same general direction, roughly in the middle of her head, it'll all be fine. So as you can see, as we add more and more stitches here, it's going to look a little more filled in, a little more solid, so you won't be able to see the skin. So just do a quick little look at that. So you could, if you wanted to, just part it like this and have that line of skin color. What I like to do though is being careful to always go the same way, so I always put the right over the left and just take one strand from each of the stitches all the way up, right over left, and then especially once we get some more hair behind it, that's going to make a nice neat part. You're not going to be able to see the skin through that, or at least not very much. Okay, so you're going to keep on doing that all the way to the top of the head. But the part that is the trickiest, that I want to take a minute to show you, is where the magic loop is at the top. I'm going to get out a tapestry needle. So I have this little package of tapestry needles that I love. And what's nice about them is that they have an eye that makes it easy to thread the yarn on. And it's not a sharp tip. There, it's in focus. Or at least it was for a second. But it has just enough of a point that you can go through the yarn if you don't want to go in between the stitches through the hole. So that just makes it a little bit nicer. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread the yarn onto the tapestry needle like so, and looking at the top of the head. So when we get up to the top here, if we needed to do a stitch right into the middle of that magic loop, there is no way my hook is going through there. So what I'm going to do instead, and let's see, probably, usually I work my way up, so now I'm just kind of guessing how it's going to line up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the magic loop with the tapestry needle. Now it looks like I could just, you know, put the 2 ends through there now, but then my needle will be stuck there forever. So instead I'm going to pull one of the ends through, and then I'm going to go back through the same way that. So now it looks exactly the same as if I had done it with my hook. Now I have the loop and my two pieces. I'm going to pull it tight, and there you have your stitch in the magic loop, even though it was too small for the hook to go through. Okay, so, and like I said, I usually, you know, work my way up so it's in a nice straight line. So hopefully I've got it in the right spot. If not, I can always take it out and do it again. So I'm going to do the next one in the line, and this one starts in the center of the magic loop and it's going to come out in another stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and thread my yarn onto the needle, go into the magic loop and out the next stitch, pull it through, and then back through the same way, like that. Being careful not to split the yarn, because if you split the yarn here, it's not going to pull through freely, and then you're going to have a problem. Alright, so making sure I've got it relatively even. Get through there. Okay, like so. Alright, and then let's do a couple along the top of her head there, just to make sure that it's going to line up before we do too much more. So there's the two stitches that define the middle of her head there, and this is the one that I did a couple of stitches in here and then decided that they were too high for her forehead. So I'm just going to take those out so they're not confusing. And I'm going to do two stitches coming out in the middle there. One that way, and then another one over here. So I have 4 stitches total coming out that same center stitch, and what I'm going to do at the end is same thing as before on the back of the head. I'm going to be swapping one from each side like that, except I'll do it nicer so that it makes a nice clean part at the front too. And this is a place where it's important to use the smaller hook, because I've used that stitch so many times, and if I had been using the bigger hook, then it might be even more visible a hole. As it is, it's already kind of ugly, so that's why we cross it over so that we hide it. Okay, so now I'm working into those stitches to come all the way to that magic loop stitch. And I think we got it in the right spot, so that's nice. Okay, so here's this one here. I'm going to go into this stitch right there, and then to connect this stitch with the middle, we're going to use our needle again and do the exact same thing that we did as on the other side. And they're all coming to that center point, and sometimes what I'll do is do a few more stitches that go into the center of the magic loop from the outside here, so that it really covers it. That's an important step, especially if you're not going to be styling the hair. If you're just going to leave it down, then I like to go all the way around the magic loop and make sure I've covered all of that skin color with this new hair color. And it just looks really nice when it's done. the more yarn we have in here, the harder it is to not split it. So this is where having a relatively blunt needle comes in handy, because if it was sharp, it would just be cutting right through those stitches. And I've gone and done it backwards, but I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, like so. And then we're going to do one more into the middle of the magic loop, going from this stitch into the center, and that will finish the top of the head for this doll anyways. Because she's going to have pigtails, I'm not going to go all the way around the magic loop like I would if her hair was going to be down. Okay, get those guys through there. Pull it tight. And if you did know that you were going to do the hair this way, and especially if you were going to do more stitches into the magic loop, you could plan ahead and not pull it quite as tight. That's always a possibility. But you don't want to sacrifice the security of that beginning either, so have to find a good balance. Okay, so now I've got the part established right to the magic loop, and then you can see the path that I would follow down on each side over here. So I'm going to go ahead and connect those, and kind of like the way we did with the hairline, where you do a little bit here and a little bit there and make sure that they meet in the middle nicely. You can start at the bottom and then do a couple at the top and go back and forth. Whatever makes it easiest to keep it consistent and making sure that it matches in the end. So I'm going to follow that line with my hook to know exactly where I want to go with that one. Once the part is finished, the next step will be to fill in the hairline at the back of the neck, and then we'll fill in either side. So I'm going to work on finishing this up, and come on back and join me for part 3.